Oh, Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fans, every time it feels like the quarterback conversation is finally starting to cool down, a new report comes out and throws even more fuel on the fire. Now, there are fresh rumors linking both the Vikings and the Lions to potential quarterback options, while the battle between Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy continues to grab everyone's attention. But that's not all. There's a rookie starting to turn heads on offense, a potential challenger emerging behind Justin Jefferson. And to top it all off, there's a veteran pass rusher who might be exactly what Brian Flores has been looking for. For months, Vikings fans have tried to convince themselves that the quarterback situation would eventually become simple. One guy would separate himself. The coaches would have clarity. The locker room would rally behind a clear starter. But the deeper we get into this offseason, the more complicated the conversation seems to become. And now another unexpected name has entered the discussion: Anthony Richardson. Yes, that Anthony Richardson. The former Colts first-round pick who entered the league with enormous expectations is suddenly being mentioned as a potential backup option for teams looking for quarterback depth. According to Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox, the Vikings and Lions could both make sense as landing spots if Indianapolis decides it's time to move on. And honestly, when you step back and look at the situation, it's easy to understand why this rumor refuses to go away. Richardson's career has never really found stable ground. Injuries, inconsistency, developmental setbacks. The talent has always been obvious, but the production simply hasn't matched the expectations that come with being drafted that high. The Colts appear increasingly committed to Daniel Jones as their future starter, and that naturally raises questions about Richardson's future. But here's where things become especially interesting from a Minnesota perspective. The speculation only grows because nobody seems completely certain about what the Vikings quarterback room will look like by week 1. Darren Wolfson recently added even more intrigue when he suggested that Kyler Murray is already the clear starter despite the public messaging about competition. Even more surprising, he openly questioned whether J.J. McCarthy is guaranteed a spot on the 53-man roster. Think about that for a second. A former first-round quarterback being discussed as a possible QB3. It sounds hard to believe. Yet the fact people are even debating it tells you how unusual this situation has become. If Murray secures the starting job and Carson Wentz becomes the trusted veteran backup, what happens next? Does McCarthy remain part of the long-term plan? Does another team come calling? Does Minnesota explore additional depth? Those questions aren't getting smaller. If anything, they're getting louder. And until the Vikings provide some clarity, every rumor connected to this quarterback room is going to attract attention. Speaking of quarterback drama, one of the more intriguing offseason storylines quietly disappeared this week. A lot of fans probably never believed it would happen, but the speculation was there nonetheless. A young quarterback prospect with developmental upside was sitting out there, creating endless hypothetical scenarios across NFL circles. Brendan Sorsby became one of those names that sparked curiosity. Some believed he could be a hidden gem. Others viewed him as a long-term project worth gambling on. But now that discussion is officially over. The NFL announced there will be no supplemental draft this year, eliminating Sorsby's path into the league through that avenue. Just like that, one of the more unusual offseason possibilities vanished. What makes this relevant to Minnesota is the timing. Reports throughout minicamp suggested neither Kyler Murray nor J.J. McCarthy had completely separated themselves in the competition. Kevin O'Connell apparently saw enough uncertainty to allow the battle to continue into training camp. Whenever uncertainty exists at quarterback, fans naturally start looking elsewhere. That's exactly what happened with Sorsby. Was Minnesota ever seriously interested? Nobody truly knows. But because the Vikings remain one of the league's most fascinating quarterback stories, every available option tends to get connected to them. And Sorsby wasn't the only name. Anthony Richardson has been linked. Mac Jones has been linked. In fact, ESPN's Nick Wagoner recently reported that Minnesota was actually viewed as Jones's preferred destination outside of San Francisco before the Vikings ultimately shifted their focus toward Murray. That detail says a lot. Think about how many names have circulated around this franchise over the past several months. It points to one reality. The outside world still doesn't know exactly what Minnesota plans to do. Inside the building, O'Connell may have a much clearer picture than anyone realizes. But from the outside looking in, every practice rep, every training camp throw, and every preseason drive feels like it carries added weight. The conversation surrounding this quarterback room isn't slowing down anytime soon. And until somebody firmly takes control of the job, the speculation is going to keep finding new life. Quick favor, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the coverage and jump into the comments because Vikings fans always bring great perspectives to these conversations. While most of the headlines continue focusing on quarterbacks, something quietly developing at another position could end up becoming one of the best stories of training camp. Every year, there's a player nobody sees coming. Every year, somebody arrives with little fanfare and suddenly forces coaches to pay attention. This year, that player might be Dillon Bell. The undrafted rookie out of Georgia wasn't expected to dominate off-season conversations. Most fans barely knew his name when he signed, but reports from spring practices suggest Kevin O'Connell and the coaching staff noticed him almost immediately. ESPN's Kevin Seifert reported that Bell spent significant time working with the second-team offense, a detail that may seem small but actually says a lot. Coaches don't hand out those opportunities for no reason. They give them to players earning trust. Bell entered the draft process with intriguing athletic traits. He isn't the biggest receiver in the league, but he brings versatility that offensive coaches love. During his college career at Georgia, he contributed both as a receiver and runner. He's physical after the catch. He breaks tackles. He creates extra yards when plays appear finished. Lance Zierlein described him as a player who requires creative usage, and if there's one coach who enjoys finding creative offensive solutions, it's Kevin O'Connell. What makes this development even more interesting is the environment Bell is stepping into. Justin Jefferson remains the heartbeat of this passing attack. Somehow, Jefferson battled through constant quarterback changes last season and still produced over 1,000 receiving yards. That level of consistency is remarkable. It also creates opportunities for everyone around him. Defenses focus so much attention on Jefferson that complementary players can emerge if they're ready to take advantage. Bell isn't being asked to become a superstar overnight. He's simply being asked to carve out a role. Maybe that starts on gadget plays. Maybe it starts on special teams. Maybe it starts as the fourth receiver. Whatever the path looks like, the early signs are encouraging. And if he keeps building momentum once pads come on, Vikings fans may discover that one of the most interesting offensive additions this year wasn't a high draft pick at all. It was a player almost nobody was talking about a few weeks ago. And finally, let's talk about a position that still feels unfinished. Because as strong as parts of this roster look, there's one area where many Vikings fans continue searching for reassurance: edge rusher depth. Andrew Van Ginkel and Dallas Turner provide excitement. Brian Flores remains one of the most creative defensive minds in football. But behind those names, the depth chart leaves legitimate questions. That's why a veteran addition continues to make sense. And one name is beginning to generate attention: Haason Reddick. At first glance, the numbers don't jump off the page. Just 3.5 sacks over the last 2 seasons. Those statistics alone would cause many fans to move on quickly. But football is rarely that simple. ESPN's Aaron Schatz recently argued that Reddick could actually be an ideal fit for Flores' system. Why? Because even though the sack totals have dipped, some of the underlying pass rush metrics remain surprisingly respectable. His pass rush win rate last season compared favorably to players who produced significantly more sacks. That suggests there may still be something left in the tank. And if there's one coordinator known for putting defenders in positions to succeed, it's Flores. What's especially interesting is Reddick's background in flexible 3-4 defensive schemes. Throughout his career, he's accumulated extensive experience dropping into coverage while also rushing the passer. That versatility matters in Flores' defense because confusion and unpredictability are foundational elements of the system. Of course, there's risk involved. Reddick turns 32 this season. His Pro Football Focus grades have declined. Nobody can guarantee a return to the form that produced 50.5 sacks between 2020 and 2023. But if the market lowers his price, Minnesota could potentially acquire a player with meaningful upside without making a major financial commitment. Sometimes contenders find value where others stop looking. Sometimes experienced veterans simply need the right environment. And if Flores believes he can unlock another productive season from Reddick, this could end up being one of the more important under-the-radar moves of the entire offseason. The deeper we move into summer, the clearer one thing becomes. Nothing about this Vikings team feels completely settled yet. The quarterback battle still hangs over everything. New faces are pushing for opportunities. Unexpected names continue surfacing in rumors. And the roster may not be finished evolving. That uncertainty can be uncomfortable, but it also means opportunity still exists. Vikings Nation has lived through enough seasons to know that some of the biggest stories emerge when nobody sees them coming. So keep your eyes on training camp, keep believing in the purple and gold, and let me know which of these developments matters most to you. Until next time, stay passionate, stay hopeful, and as always, stay tuned. Skol Vikings, let's go!